In this video, we're going to be talking about Alzheimer's disease. We're actually going to be applying the different concepts that we learned from video 1, 2, 3, and 4, and trying to bring these concepts in a real-life situation as we have here. Alzheimer's disease, as everyone knows, is very common among elderly patients, and it's a disease that cure hasn't been discovered for. But throughout the last 4 videos, we learned about neurons, different parts of neurons. We learned about different structures that protect the brain, the meninges. We learned about the blood-brain barrier. We learned about the differences between the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. And we learned, I even mentioned a condition called multiple sclerosis, and just to be aware of the different diseases that can affect the human brain. And so we talked about a lot of things, and we're going to bring those things into application here as we look at Alzheimer's disease. As you can see, I have gathered imaging here. This is a PET scan, and as you can see here, the first diagram that is depicted here, there's a lot of brain activity going on. Brain activity is revealed by these red regions of the brain. It's a very bright brain. It's very healthy, as you can see. And as we progress further to the right, you see here that there's less red regions that are being shown here. And that's an indication of less brain activity going on. And so this individual has progressed and shown symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. And the less red regions you have there, the less brain activity going on, the harder it is for the individual to retain information, for brain processes to really occur. Going to the right here, as you can see, the same thing is shown. There's a healthy brain that's a lot of red regions are depicted here. And as we progress to the right, less of this red activity is present. As you can see here, neurodegeneration has already started to occur. And all the way to the right, you can see there's extreme degeneration that has occurred. So let's talk about Alzheimer's disease. And this is a disease caused by plaques and tangles, right, of the tau protein. What we've seen here, the PET scan has done well to show us that brain activity has decreased, but what the PET scan doesn't show is that the reason the brain activity has decreased is because there's been these plaques and tangles that have occurred in different regions where neurons are otherwise joined by synapses. So when you have these plaques and tangles that are in the regions of near dendrites and near regions that information should really be uptaken by neurons in order to fire, then you start to see this slow process of information going on, and you start to see neurons will not fire as rapidly as they normally would. And you also start to see a lot of glial cells, which we talked about in the previous videos. A lot of these glial cells will start to die off, actually, and they won't provide neurons with the appropriate support that the neurons need, right? The appropriate amount of oxygenated blood and things like that. So there's a lot of different things to consider when we're talking about Alzheimer's disease, and this disease hasn't really been cured, right? There isn't really a cure for Alzheimer's disease, but the symptoms can be prolonged, right? And the symptoms can be controlled to a certain extent. So as you can see here on the right, I have listed a few medicines. This is Tacrin. There is rivastigmine, which I don't think I'm pronouncing right. There's galantamine, and there's donepezil as well. And these, the medicine that I've listed here, they've been listed by their generic names. That's one thing I wanted to mention. Let me just write that here. Generic names, and actually this is the names that doctors are trained to refer to medicine as, because if you refer to medicine by their brand names, there's actually several brand names for different medications, so you have to refer to them as their generic names. And the medicine that I've listed there are actually under the class medicine what you call acetylcholine esterase inhibitors. And let me attempt to write that. You've got these acetylcholine esterase inhibitors. Okay, and these are, as you can see by the name, should really tell you what they are. These are medications that inhibit the enzyme acetylcholine esterase, right? They inhibit the acetylcholine esterase in order to make sure that acetylcholine is not broken down in the brain as much as it's being broken down. So again, well, we haven't really talked about this, but acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter which is responsible for memory. It's also responsible for movement. Let me just write that down. Acetylcholine, responsible for memory, information processing, and movements. And a lot of these neurotransmitters have more than one function. And so you have this enzyme that breaks down acetylcholine. And so scientists throughout the years have tried to look at different ways to try and cure Alzheimer's disease. And these 4 drugs that I've listed here will prevent this enzyme from breaking down acetylcholine, and hoping that the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease are decreased and that the patient, the quality of life can be improved and such things like that. And there's also another drug that I did not list. It's actually called Mementin. Let me just write that down here. Mementin. This is an NMDA receptor antagonist. And again, we have not gone that deeply into the field yet for you to understand what that means, but just know that Mementin also is used to try and control the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. So in this video, just going back to summarize what we've talked about, I really wanted to emphasize the importance of being able to interpret this PET scan. Knowing that this is a PET scan is important. Knowing how to interpret the results of a PET scan, that red regions show the healthy patient, right? And then that when you don't have so much of that red activity going on, that the brain is actually not involved. And PET scans can actually be used to view different body organs, right? You can look at the activity of the heart, you can look at the activity of the kidneys, in order to see if there's been degeneration that has occurred or if there's malfunction that's in those regions of the body. So once again, thanks for watching this video, and I hope that we've kind of applied these different concepts that we've learned throughout the last videos into this video. And as we progress, we will continue to talk about more medicine and how various medicines are prescribed to patients with certain conditions. Again, it's important to memorize these drugs. It's important to memorize all of the 4 that I've listed here, the acetylcholine esterase inhibitors for Alzheimer's disease. In future videos, we're going to talk about the drugs that are administered for Parkinsonian patients and different people that have different conditions. So thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next.